All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our RBT practice exam series where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe for all of our updates. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. Your supervisor tells you that your client is not allowed access to Roblox unless the client is on a break. However, the client's parents say the client can play Roblox whenever they want. As the behavior technician, what should you do? This is a role question, as in, what is your role as the RBT? And your primary role as the RBT is implementation. You implement behavior plans and skill acquisition plans and treatment plans after receiving training from your supervisor and under the direction of your supervisor. However, there are times where stakeholders, or in this case, parents, are going to disagree with those plans. So, for instance, your supervisor tells you your client is not allowed access to Roblox unless they're on a break, but the client's parents, the stakeholders, say the client can play Roblox whenever they want. So, what we have is a fundamental disagreement on the treatment plan. Now, you're in a tough spot as the behavior technician because you know you want to deliver good service, you know what you've been trained on, and you probably know the reasoning behind why your supervisor made that decision. But the stakeholder is part of the team. And again, the stakeholder is the parents in this case. They're part of the team, and they absolutely have a voice and a say, and their say has to be respected, especially when it's the parents, because the parents have a right to terminate service, to not allow service, to disagree with plans, all they want. So, as the RBT, if you're in a situation where your supervisor is telling you one thing and a parent is saying something else, what should you do? A, follow the behavior plan and prevent the client from playing Roblox. If the parents are telling you to not do a certain intervention, you can't just ignore their request. Does it make them right? Maybe not, but you can't ignore their request. One, they're the parents, and two, they're part of the team. B, comply with the parents' wishes and allow Roblox all the time. You can't go the other way, however, and just ignore your supervisor's planning and training because your supervisor has a reason. So we can't ignore either party. So what should we do? C, retrain the parent on the behavior plan so that they better understand the reasoning. This might occur later on, but your first reaction as the RBT is to not train the parent on the plan. You have to first address the issues that the parents are having or the disagreement between the parents and the supervisor. And the best way to do that is D, follow the parent's instructions until you can talk with your supervisor. What you should do is you should agree to what the parents are saying, respect their wishes, and contact your supervisor immediately. You want to try to get in touch with the supervisor as soon as you can. You explain the situation to your supervisor, and then you go from there. There's a reason the code and the task list emphasize communication between supervisors and RBTs because we work on a team. This is a collaborative team. And so if one stakeholder is having an issue, we need to go to the supervisor and make sure everything is okay before proceeding. So as the behavior technician, the best course of action is to follow the parent's instructions until you can talk with your supervisor. Charlie's dad paid him $10 to mow the lawn after showing him how to properly do it. After a few times, Charlie was then able to weed eat the lawn without teaching from his dad. What occurred here relative to weed eating? All right, let's think about this question. We're looking at the situation relative to the weed eating. So we're kind of focused here on the weed eating. We know Charlie's dad paid him $10 to mow the lawn after showing him how to do it. So we know so far Charlie's dad taught him how to mow the lawn or showed him how to mow the lawn and is now paying him. After a few times, Charlie is now weed eating the lawn without teaching. So Charlie was taught to mow the lawn, and now he's able to weed eat the lawn without teaching. And so what has Charlie done? And if we look at A and B, we have stimulus generalization and response generalization. Now, what is the difference? Well, when we think about stimulus generalization, we're thinking about a single response occurring in the presence of multiple stimuli. With response generalization, we're thinking about multiple responses occurring in the presence of one stimuli, a lot of times untaught. Now, in this case, how many responses are we looking at? Well, we have Charlie, who can mow the lawn and we have Charlie who can weed eat the lawn. And so in this case, our stimulus is the lawn. Charlie's responses are mowing and weed eating. Even better, Charlie was never taught to weed eat the lawn. He just started doing it. So, did stimulus generalization occur? No, because we're still only looking at the lawn. We have multiple responses generalizing in the presence of that stimulus, which is the lawn. And so, what happened was B, response generalization. Always read all of your answer choices. So, C, maintenance. Maintenance, if we were talking about mowing the lawn and Charlie now being able to mow the lawn and teaching no longer occurring, we might have been referring to maintenance. But in this case, Charlie wasn't taught to weed eat. So we're not talking about maintenance. Maintenance occurs when a skill is taught, teaching stops, and the skill continues. And then shaping. Do we talk about approximations here? Do we talk about terminal behaviors? No, we're not discussing shaping in this question. Charlie being able to go from mowing the lawn to now weed eating the lawn is what we would consider response generalization, where we have multiple responses occurring in the presence of a stimulus, and the responses are typically untaught. Arnold makes eggs every morning after working out. Today, he had an extra pepper in his fridge, so he added it to his eggs. After eating the eggs, he decides he is always going to put peppers into his eggs from now on. What changed his behavior? So, behavior change question. In behavior change questions, we're typically thinking about consequences. So, reinforcement, punishment, extinction, because consequences change future behavior. And this one is pretty straightforward, right? Because we're not even looking at positive and negative. We're just looking at the type of consequence. And we can narrow it down pretty quickly because if the behavior increased or maintained in the future, the behavior was reinforced. If it decreased, it was punished or put on extinction. And how do we know that? Well, because by rule, reinforcement always increases, whereas punishment and extinction always decrease. So what do we know? We know Arnold makes eggs, and he had an extra pepper in his fridge, so he put it in his eggs. He then ate the eggs and is always putting peppers in his eggs from now on. The only question you have to ask yourself is, how did the behavior change? Well, in the future, Arnold started putting peppers into his eggs every time. His behavior increased. That putting peppers in the eggs behavior increased. Don't overthink it more than that. The behavior changed in the future. It increased due to a reinforcement. We know it's not punishment and we know it's not extinction because those only decrease behavior. Don't overthink the consequence questions. They're as simple as that. How did the behavior change? And then if you have a positive and a negative question, did you add something or did you take something away? Don't overthink the consequence questions. John is teaching a student to independently wash their hands. He breaks down the hand washing process into smaller steps, turning on the faucet, wetting hands, applying soap, scrubbing, rinsing, and drying. John then teaches each step individually in the correct order, providing reinforcement after each step is completed correctly. What method of teaching did John use? So let's think about this. It's a simple teaching method question, and we're asking ourselves, what type of teaching did John use in this situation? So we know John is teaching the student to wash their hands independently. He breaks down the hand washing process into smaller steps. Now, what would we call that? What do we call it when we take a complex skill and break it into smaller steps? We call it a task analysis. And what comes after a task analysis? Well, our task chain. And our chain is turning on the faucet, wetting hands, applying soap, scrubbing, rinsing, and drying. He then teaches the step individually in the correct order, providing reinforcement after each step is completed correctly. So, pretty straightforward, right? It looks like a clear task chain. So, what method of teaching did John use? A, discrete trial training. Well, we're not looking at a situation where John is delivering trials rapidly with a lot of feedback. We're looking at a chain. He performed a task analysis, and then he used a task chain to teach the behavior. It looks like a forward task chain, but we don't even have to go that far because we simply have to know it's a task chain. Did John shape? Well, we're not talking about approximations of behavior. We're not talking about terminal behaviors. And so we're not looking necessarily at shaping. And did John use differential reinforcement? All we know is John provided reinforcement. We don't talk anything about extinction. So, what method of teaching did John use? Well, simply be task chaining. Very straightforward question. Again, if you get a pretty easy question, don't overthink it. Trust your preparation, answer the question, and move on. Prompts acts as a temporary SDs for behavior, but should be faded out so that the true SD evokes behavior. How quickly should prompts be faded? All right, we have a prompt fading question, and we're wondering how quickly should we fade out these so-called prompts? Because we know prompts are temporary SDs, meaning we want the behavior to be evoked by the SD that we want. Sometimes we have to prompt, though, because the behavior isn't strong enough or it's not reliable enough. And when we prompt, that prompt acts as a temporary SD. And so to remove it, we have to fade out the prompt, and so that the true SD evokes behavior. The question is, how quickly should that fading occur? A, after 3 consecutive sessions of prompting. Well, that's not a hard and fast rule, right? Because we might need more than 3 sessions. Okay, so just because you prompt 3 sessions in a row doesn't mean it's effective. What we're really trying to do is fade the prompt as quickly as possible, because in almost every situation, the prompt is not what we want there. We really want that real SD to be evoking the behavior. So as quickly as we can fade the prompt, that's how quickly we should go about it. C, only once the client has mastered the skill completely. No, because we want to start fading before mastery. That's why we have a prompt hierarchy. So we can move up and down that hierarchy and start fading the prompts even before we reach mastery. And then D, only physical prompts need to be faded out. Again, untrue. Every different type of prompt should be faded out as quickly as possible. So, how quickly should prompts be faded? Well, as quickly as possible, while still teaching the client the right thing to do. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. When you pass your exam, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. As always, work hard, study hard, and we'll see you soon.